Hello there, and welcome back to episode 112 of the Northeast Corner. It's getting to a point of where I don't even remember the episode title, numbers, I guess, and I then look at the video or the last podcast I uploaded to remind myself. But now doing it live, there's a bit of extra responsibility on me. But I'm not just speaking to myself, by the way. We do have a guest in today. The first time you were on was episode 7, I believe.
Yeah, I'm an OG.
Back in 2021, COVID restrictions and all sorts, little alien mic stands, and but you were on, I guess, more for like your kind of pencil chav work and stuff like that, and talking about the time away with Sean and so forth. And,
just like art stuff. Yeah,
and during that time, or maybe a year before, was when you started doing the parallel fin stuff. When you started doing the motorbike reviews and like
I think so.
vlogging.
Yeah, it's been going a little while now. Yeah, 20. Yeah, it would have been the year before, I think.
So it's good to chat again, but
Yes.
bear with me for a second, because I was informing you as we were setting up for this that there's ad reads now.
Yes.
For the time being. So excuse me while I go and attend to that duty. Last episode, I managed to bang it out in one go after having too much coffee and like having the worst anxiety of my life, but feeling a bit more relaxed today for it. So here goes the worst ad read you've probably ever heard all week. Okay, here we go. The news you have all been waiting for. The Northeast Pipe Band concert is back. Hosted by Bucksburn and District Pipe Band at Aberdeen Music Hall on the 27th of April 2024. Featuring bands such as St. Lawrence O'Toole. The last time St. Lawrence O'Toole played in Aberdeen was on the 27th of April 2013. 11 years on, the 27th of April 2024, a concert named Inspired in Aberdeen, Scotland will mark the second major concert. The 2024 concert will once take place again in the newly renovated venue and facilities of Aberdeen Music Hall. Bucksburn are excited to have Alan, Stephen and the band in Aberdeen for the 9th concert, a venture that started as a one-off event back in 2010. This indoor pipe band gathering where pipers, drummers, families, friends and supporters gather for the start of a new season where old and new stories are shared, new friendships made and old friendships reignited, along with some exciting special guests to be announced at a later date. The concert will have a mixture of traditional and contemporary music that will keep the audience entertained throughout the night. Once again, Bucksburn look forward to another amazing pipe band event in the heart of the city and will continue to keep this venture alive with exciting top grade 1 bands entertaining the captive audience. Now, to get tickets and find out more information for this event, please go to www.aberdeenperformingarts.com. And if you want to follow Bucksburn and District Pipe Band on Facebook, you can follow them on Facebook, all lowercase and no spaces, Bucksburn and District Pipe Band on Facebook. And you can also check out the Lighthouse Podcast Studio. We are on the program for the event, our logo on our website, so make sure that you check us out as well if you already haven't. Thank you to Bucksburn and District Pipe Band and Gus McCaskill for this opportunity to have our studio logo on a program for such a massive local event. Okay. You know what? That didn't go too bad. I thought I was going to be a bit.
That was good.
There was a couple times it looked like the fumble was coming, but we got through it in the end. But anyway, let's get into it, man. Obviously, like we're going to talk a lot about the parallel fin stuff and stuff like that today. But I guess like my first kind of point is why filmmaking in general. Like, because I would say it's a very heavy influence on a lot of the things that you've done over your time, right?
Yeah. I would say it started off as just like something to do when I think it was like maybe when I was like 11 or 12. It was just something to do for fun. And then as I got older, you kind of realize that, film is quite a good medium for storytelling, expressing yourself. It's just a really good form of art as well. So I kind of saw how powerful it could be, so that's kind of why I got into it properly, I would say. It's like 50% that and 50% just because it's like it was fun, honestly. But yeah.
Do you have like a film that like got you into filmmaking? Because that's like the kind of cliche story, isn't it? Like someone saw Shawshank Redemption and was like, I must make comedy shorts on TikTok.
Yeah. No, it was actually the when the Hobbit trilogy was coming out, Peter Jackson, the director, was doing like behind the scenes, behind the scenes diary of it, and I was watching them just because mainly I was excited for the films, being a Lord of the Rings fanboy, but I kind of saw, I don't know what it was. I think it was like the culture of like the cast and crew and everything. It just felt like that's what I wanted to do. And anything that creates that kind of culture, I think I wanted to be a part of. So, I would say that was probably what got me into it seriously.
I suppose like it's a whole different side of the film when you start seeing stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like it used to be quite common on like, do you remember like the DVDs where they would give you like they would charge like an extra £50 and you would get like 10 minutes of behind the scenes stuff. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? But,
exactly.
But yeah, it's a whole different kind of experience when it comes to film, right? Because like I think a lot of the time you see film and its finished form, and it kind of feels like real life, right? You're not even thinking you're watching a film at that point. No. And then it kind of gets put into perspective when you have like the scenes of where there's literally like 80 people around one scene, and you're like, how does that like happen when like the shot seems so wide and it looks like you could have a 360-degree view of the scene and there's no one there? That's just the experience that's going on in that time. So how did that kind of, when you got into like starting the channel up, how did that kind of combine with your kind of interest in, I would say motorcycles, but it makes you sound like you're starring in Sons of Anarchy. So like automotive and that, because you kind of got your driving license and your motorbike license at a similar time, didn't you?
To be honest, I think with the like, I guess I would call it motorcycle content, I would say. A lot of people call it moto vlogging, but that's more kind of like, I guess just vlogging on a motorcycle, just like updating people on your life and stuff, which isn't exactly what I do. Sorry, you have to remind me of the question. My
So how did like combining your love of film get into like intertwine with the interest in motorbikes and
that was it. So again, I think it was mainly the fun of it. Like, I think that's important to keep doing what you're doing, is you have to enjoy it, obviously, to begin with. But it was just combining, I guess, two interests, because I was already into the motorcycles and into film as well. And again, you can kind of, there's definitely like a very niche market there.
For sure. Yeah.
Like that. Not everyone that makes motorcycle content is into film, and not everyone that's into film makes motorcycle content. So it doesn't come along that often. Like, I think that someone likes both.
But it can still congregate like two audiences together
exactly.
in a way, right?
Yeah. So I guess it's for like, it's for the general viewer as well. I think there's a lot of people that watch this kind of stuff that don't even ride a bike, that just find it entertaining, I think. But yeah, I think that answers the question, right?
There's no wrong answer. So what was your, I think I asked you this last time, but what was your first experience using editing software? And what was it? Was it Premiere Pro, or was it anything? Was it someone else?
Way back, it would have been Windows Movie Maker.
Oh my God.
Which was just, I don't know how that didn't make it into the professional landscape. No, I think after that it was Sony Vegas, which I don't know how widely used that is anymore.
I think it's one that goes under the radar.
I know, it's actually quite good.
I believe it was free as well, right? It would probably maybe be like an older version of what like DaVinci Resolve is now.
Yeah, I think DaVinci Resolve is definitely taken over, I think. But I remember actually going to a university open day for a film course, actually, and they were asking everyone what like editing software they use, and everyone was like, oh yeah, Premiere Pro, Final Cut. And I was like, Sony Vegas. And the tutor kind of looked at me like, what the hell is that? So that, I guess that kind of shows how niche
It's
that
crazy though,
one was.
because like, I mean, not as an elitist here, but I do use Premiere Pro just because it was like what I got used to. And Sean, he went and did the old kind of traitor to turn and went to DaVinci Resolve. And to be fair, I would have as well if I could have got used to the layout. But I think it's quite interesting that you get good at like video editing and stuff, and you start thinking to yourself, oh, well, there's no learning curve just switching to something else. Oh my gosh, there is. Like, usually it will take me, like when I'm doing like a multicam thing, that'll take me like a minute to set up. On DaVinci Resolve, I was searching for that stuff for about an hour.
Exactly.
And then I kind of made a bit of progress, and then I was like, right, how do I switch back and forth between them?
You know?
But yeah, they do punch above their weight though, these things, right? Like DaVinci Resolve is very competitive for what it is, you know, and it has like not just the video editing side of it, but the color correction, the digital audio workspace as well. I believe it's Fairlight. It's all part of the DaVinci program, but it's all like really competitive stuff. When you think of like Adobe, it's like Premiere £20 a month, Adobe Audition £20 a month, Photoshop £10 a month, unless you get like the suite on sale for a year or something like that, in which case like you have to, it's not you can just back out of that.
No.
Like, as I found out when I first got Adobe Audition, where I was like, I don't know if I need this, and they're like, yeah, that'll be about £190 because you're trying to cancel like 11 months before your contract's up. And I was like, well,
yeah, it's a joke. No, I think you're right about DaVinci Resolve. Like, I just feel like, I know it's kind of a buzzword nowadays, but it's just so accessible. Like for, like I see so many more people getting into like serious editing now that probably wouldn't have otherwise, you know, outside of, you know, uploading clips to TikTok and cutting it in there.
Yeah.
I think it's like if people want to take it a step above that, DaVinci Resolve is there. And I think it's still free, right?
Yeah, and then you get more features if you then so basically most editing softwares would require a subscription service. For example, Adobe. I tagged you in a funny meme the other day about I want to read a PDF in Adobe, just hand the hand out. But I'm not biting the hand that feeds me, by the way. Please let me still use your software. But yeah, I think there's like so instead of a subscription service, if you want to unlock more features on DaVinci Resolve, it's a one-off payment, which is about £300. And people might be like, oh my God, how's that like a better deal than paying £20 a month? But like, obviously, what's £20 a month over 12 months? Like
240, is it?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
but yeah, that really adds up.
I was thinking 120, and I was like, no, that's 10.
We're no mathematicians here.
No, I know. Thank God that like well, I suppose we do kind of have to be okay with numbers for like timestamps.
We know there's 24 frames in a second, or 25, depending on what
file size, bit rate, all that type of stuff. Am I right in thinking that you had like you'd acquired Premiere Pro through your own means at one point? I remember you saying.
Just like, you know, the FBI bashing down the door right now. No, there was like I can't remember what it was called. It was like a spin-off software of it, but it was let's just say it was basically heavily based on Premiere Pro, but they managed to find loopholes, I guess. But yeah, I mean, that just kind of goes to show that how needed DaVinci Resolve was. I was someone who wanted to edit but couldn't because it was too expensive, so I had to find other means. But obviously nowadays you don't have to do that probably, but
I think there's another good one as well. This is more for audio, but I think Reaper's another one that give you access to it, and they let you have as long as a free trial as you want, which is probably not a great business model because there's 100% a lot of people just using that and saying, I've not decided yet. You've had the program for 5 years. You can make your mind up. And they're probably like taking advantage of good-natured people that are trying to make money on that. But yeah, no, these things are definitely, like you said, they bring accessibility into more people doing it, right? Because I think if it was just Premiere, Final Cut, all these types of things, even stuff like GarageBand, which is free on a Mac, but like getting a Mac's like too much. Do you know what I mean?
Too much,
But like these things are obviously like awesome for getting people into like starting out in that. And it's not just like they're at a disadvantage compared to someone using Premiere Pro. Like it is very, very much competitive. So in terms of like the work that you've done, also you're an animator, as well. So like in your, I guess, filmmaking for leisure and filmmaking for work, for lack of a better term. Like I take it you've been using a lot of different kind of softwares now over time. What's like your particular favorite one and why?
Honestly, sticking with Adobe, like After Effects is just, I think I prefer it actually over Premiere. I know obviously it's not for the same thing, but just for how intuitive it is, and how efficient it is, I think, After Effects that's mainly for obviously animation, but Adobe After Effects and Adobe Premiere are pretty much the main two.
Have you seen like I think it's Enhanced Speech, the new AI thing that they brought in Premiere Pro? I tried that out the other day and I couldn't believe what had just happened. Like I just recorded something on a Rode video mic, and like it was because I was in like quite a loud environment. There was obviously quite a lot of loud levels, and this thing had like EQ'd it and compressed it. Same with the color correction, like the auto color. It's not perfect, but it doesn't. What I like about it is it doesn't go too far.
No,
you know what I mean? Like
no,
it's very conservative of what it does. So it is quite scary how I would say they're definitely the one that's gone the furthest with like AI stuff.
Yes, definitely.
So far, because I'm pretty sure they've even done I think they have their own like podcast app as well now, where literally someone could. I shouldn't be saying this as someone that is like a self-employed podcast producer, but I think you can like record into your phone, put it in that, and it'll work it out and make it sound pretty decent. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I would still suggest coming in studio to get it done though. Like, and there's a good at least another 5 years before AI takes over.
Exactly.
Like, I don't know if you've seen that meme with oh my god, AI is going to take over soon. It's the pictures, and you know how like AI gets images wrong sometimes, and it's like just a random arm and like a a meadow picture or something.
Yeah, when AI can get hands right, that's when we know we're screwed. Basically.
So early days of filmmaking. We spoke a lot about this last time, but I'd be remiss not to ask you about the Three Shades. Obviously, with the holy trinity of yourself, Mr. Saul and Innes. Like you all kind of met through school basically, right? And I guess you all had like similar interests. Like you just mentioned Lord of the Rings. Sean's obviously massive into Lord of the Rings. He at least mentions it about 5 times every time you meet up with him. And then obviously like Innes was incorporated into that as well. But a lot of like the filmmaking, and we mentioned this last time, was like it was very kind of martial arts based, kind of like fight films and stuff like that. Like I remember last time saying it was a lot like, you know, that kind of Enter the Dragon type stuff. Just outside Duffus Castle instead of you know?
It was definitely a lot of our Sean kind of introduced both me and Innes to that kind of genre. I think of like the B movies, grindhouse kind of stuff, which I don't think I would have known would have existed otherwise. But it's such a good and cheap, I should say, genre to kind of do, because it's obviously on purposely cheap, and that's like part of the style. And there's kind of humor in that. I think it kind of reminds me of, even though it's not a grindhouse, it's the Monty Python. You know, when they I don't know if this is true or not, but apparently they couldn't afford horses, so that's why they used the coconuts for the horse sounds. That's something.
Fantastic if it's true.
That is fantastic if it's true, but I think I've just been told that, but I haven't actually checked it. So any fact checkers out there, you know, now's your time.
I remember you did I believe it was like you submitted something to, it was for the BBC, but it was through, I think it was it Avalon at the time that were the kind of ones that would take independent ideas, submit it to them.
I think I can't remember if it was Avalon or BFI. I can't remember which one, but that was a short that we did. It was supposed to be U-rated, and for some reason we thought a fight film was a good idea for U-rated, even though it's like super hard to get within those kind of fairly, obviously for a purpose, restricted bounds of, you know, this has to be appropriate for absolutely everyone, and you know, from the ages of toddler all the way up to 80, 99, you know. But
I would imagine those restrictions wouldn't be so fierce now knowing what like those ages have access to when they're like scrolling through TikTok and like the Ukraine war is just in front of their face, or you know what I mean. So was that a bit like surreal though, kind of like having to take that, because I suppose because you guys were still pretty young yourself when you did that, like 16, 17, something like that.
Yeah, I think so, around that age.
So like it's probably like an extra kind of layer that you probably hadn't even thought of, like because like to begin with, you're like, let's just make what we want, right? And I suppose the frustrating thing of submitting it to big corporations is that like there's a lot of control taken out of your kind of you know, if you want it in front of that massive platform. I suppose the BBC as well is like had to tread very carefully with a lot of the controversy that has been surrounding it the last kind of 10 years.
Yes.
They've sold a lot of their programs as well, I've noticed. Like all the things you would used to see, like, I know it's an obvious one, but Great British Bake Off is now on Channel 4. Yeah. There's a bunch of other ones as well. Yeah.
Doctor Who, I think, was Doctor Who, I don't know if it's like completely, it's like partially sold to Disney, I guess, because they're showing it on there now. But BBC and controversy go hand in hand, you know. But
to be continued. No, not to be continued. So when did you first get interested in motorbikes, right? Because I think everyone growing up gets interested in cars and stuff like that at one point in time in their life, and but I think motorbikes rather. I don't know why I just said motorbike. Motorbikes, I guess, is like a whole just different kind of niche in itself, right? Even though it's like a similar mode of transport.
Yeah. I think, like, obviously there's the whole thing around motorbikes, you know, being death traps and stuff like that. But when I was about 16 or 17 and, you know, you're kind of young, you don't have much money and you kind of want your freedom, you kind of realize that bikes are overall cheaper, I think, to buy than a car. So that's mainly the reason I went for it, actually. There was no like cool factor or anything I was going for, I wouldn't say. But
well, I suppose in a way, like it's a progression from getting a moped. And like getting a moped license is a couple years before, I think it's 16 last time I checked. So like obviously like it's the first able chance to be on the road if you want to be. So I guess like, I'm not saying that like I just did say that motorbikes are a progression from mopeds, but you know, it's like a similar type of thing, right?
Yeah,
like,
definitely.
So did you have interest in motorbikes before then, or was it just simply let's get on the road as quick as we can, and then it kind of went from there?
Yeah, I think it was. I mean, I think most 16-year-olds like at least have like a single thought of, would a moped be a good idea? I think for most people, unless you absolutely need it, probably no. But it was mainly just get on the road, and then after that, I kind of realized how fun it was and how I guess freeing it was. Again, it's just that first sense of freedom, I guess, because you can go anywhere. Whereas before you're kind of like, I mean, I was living in a little Scottish village called Hopeman, you know, shout out. And it's good to escape a little village, I think, like when you're that age. So yeah.
So like when was it you got your license? I'm pretty sure, were we working on Audiobook Man at the time that you got your motorbike license, or at least part of it? Because there's two parts to the whole kind of process, which is kind of strange in a way. Yeah.
I think I was 19. No, I was 17 when I first got a bike, I think. So trying to line that up when we did Audiobook Man. But yeah, there's two parts to it, which is basically you got mod 1 and mod 2. And mod 1 is basically you're taken to a car park and they've set up a bunch of cones and you basically got to prove you can that you can basically maneuver the bike in slow speeds and stuff. And my worst one was always there's one called an avoidance maneuver, and you have to basically go straight as fast as you can towards a cone and then dodge it the last second.
Wow.
Which it kind of, obviously your brain's like, you don't want to go straight into something.
It's a stressful situation in general, right?
Yeah. But it's just, I guess it's just to prove that in that situation you can actually dodge something. But and then mod 2, you're just on the road, but and you've got a guy behind you on his own bike who's speaking in your ear, or shouting in my case, turn left, turn right.
So they follow you on their own motorbike.
Yes, yeah.
That is so Looney Tunes. It is unbelievable.
It's so weird, isn't it? I'm just like, yeah.
Because I remember someone told me one time, and I did question this because I was like, "There's no way that this is the way that they do the test. Is it someone would be like the passenger, someone holding someone from behind?"
No, as hilarious as that would be, I don't know if that was ever. Maybe that was the case before, but that would be hilarious.
Sense. Like, I mean, granted, they don't have much control over. Like it's impossible to replicate the car standard, because at least like an examiner has the ability to stop people from dying. Whereas this, you've just kind of got to let it play out. From the get-go, you're kind of like, you're on your own kind of mentality, which is kind of the mentality you need for riding a bike anyway, because you got to look out for yourself. That sounds like something you should have on like a boomer Facebook meme or something. But I know. If I could be bothered promoting my own podcast, that would be going up on TikTok. Just like what's that? The background music they always put on, like the kind of the manosphere characters. You know, the Snowfall one is like really emotional music, and it's
Sorry, I didn't mean to get super deep there, guys.
But I suppose, did this kind of like obviously grow over time as well as when you were down? Was it Perth that you went to university or college?
Down there is where I got my first air quotes big bike, and that's the bike that I started the Parallel Fin channel with. That was always on my mind before even buying a bike, as I knew I wanted to start a channel. Again, just morphing those two interests, film and biking, and pretty much started as soon as I got that, which I think was in 2019, I believe, or something like that. So just before the pandemic, when we couldn't go on the road, so that was perfect.
I suppose like the first lockdown, you couldn't even go for a drive without it being like, "What are you doing, sir?"
Yeah.
Although admittedly, like, it's kind of hard to police that. Like, there were still cars going about. It wasn't like. Yeah, but like, I suppose like during the second one, was that more of a chance to like get out and...
Definitely, yeah. I mean, I would say one of the things actually that held me back from going out during lockdown, especially the first one where I think everyone was a bit more scared, was it was just kind of specific to bikers actually, because basically, if you went out and you crashed, you were taking an ambulance away from someone who might have needed it, like COVID-wise. So that was definitely something to consider. So it was definitely a lot of guilt if you went out, it just like holding you back. So I just decided not to risk it. I don't want to be that guy, So
I mean, I was about to say press and journal, but it would be like be a different paper down there, but the media would be loving that, wouldn't they?
Yes.
Just being like, selfish man goes out for bike ride, ruins world.
Yeah, absolute hoodlum,
So when did the idea of the channel come about? Because that also kind of just, because I checked the other day, January 2020, it was formed. I mean, it sounds like it was a pact, but created. So again, just as the pandemic started, so I take it there was maybe the idea started and then that happened, so maybe a bit of a hiatus in there just because obviously there was nothing to do at the time.
Well, yeah, definitely. I think when I first started it, I just used the bike to go to work and back, and I was just filming that. So there's no like proper exploration or anything like that to begin with. but you slowly realize that there's not that much interesting about you just going to work
Yeah,
on your
yeah.
bike.
Watch me go to my route to work for the 98th time.
Yes, yeah, and there's something a little worrying about that as well. It's like I'm literally posting my route to work. Like,
Yeah.
is this actually a smart idea? You know?
Because here's the thing, that is the type of stuff that does blow up on the internet. Like
Yes.
the most, because there's so much visual stimulation on the internet now,
Yes.
the mundane things get popular because it is just something that,
100%,
you know, like
yeah.
I see stuff on like YouTube, and it's really kind of simple titles, right?
Yeah.
And it's something that you wouldn't, if it was on the TV, you wouldn't be interested. But
Yeah.
because it's on the internet and it's got, especially when you see it's got like 15 million views, it's like, I have to watch that. And it's
Yes.
like someone doing something just pretty simple.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I was actually speaking to Anna, my partner for the audience, the other night, and I was actually saying I don't know if the younger generation are actually sort of like escaping this kind of very fast paced thing in a way, because like, I mean, the popularity of podcast itself, I feel like is proof in itself that people do like long form content. But
I suppose from that long form content comes the clips. Do you know
That's true,
there is
yeah.
people on TikTok, right, that will be in a setup like this? I know, like, it's not a video one, so, but like the Shure SM7Bs, which, to be honest, I've probably fallen for a bit of the kind of hype there myself and been like, oh, I need that for my business. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
there is people that genuinely, there was a guy that got caught out for this. He was posting all these clips and people couldn't find the actual, like, full episodes of what he was
Yeah.
doing. So he wasn't doing podcasts.
Oh.
He was just filming, like, in a podcast setup and just, like, doing clips that were probably scripted.
so instead of waiting for something natural to come along, you
Yeah,
just,
yeah.
oh, this will make a viral clip. That's crazy. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me though. At the same time, I suppose. Yeah. Oh God, I think maybe a healthy mix of both seems to be the way forward. Because those shorter things seem to lead people to the longer stuff.
For sure. Like, for me, like, I'm not personally on TikTok. Like, I do make them for, like, people that come in here and stuff.
Yeah.
And I understand how popular it is and how beneficial it is to promoting stuff you're doing elsewhere. But for me, it's like, I remember back in the day, I used to have all the social media, Snapchat, Twitter, or X as it's now called, but Twitter at the time.
Yeah.
There was probably another one as well. I was about to say MySpace, but that's been dead for a good while. But yeah, I used to have all of them, and I would spend like 2 hours, like, because I'm scrolling through the same stuff on each different platform. Like, this is ridiculous. And TikTok just seems like it would be the perfect kind of conundrum for me to, like, waste an hour and a half of my time without me even realizing it. If you know what I mean?
Yeah. So doom scrolling's real for sure.
Yeah. I do. I mean, I get like updated from the people I make them for, and like some of that's brutal. Like, it'll. One of the guys that comes in here, I made some for. Well, he asked for something to be time stamped and that, and it got like, I think it's currently sat on like 26,000 views or something like that.
That's
which
decent.
is like, for me, was just like brutal. Do you know what I mean? I know
Yeah.
people will be like, oh, there's people that get millions and everything. But anyway, I'm losing my attention span, so like I'm proving the point of TikTok there. But so like, what was the kind of the genesis of like creating a channel based around the technical side of bikes, as obviously as well as it developed into kind of involving yourself in it more with your opinions and, you know, what's going on in your life at the time?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think this seems to be the case with a lot of channels, and I think I got this advice from another channel, funnily enough, but that you generally want to create different streams of the same channel, so you kind of like hitting different audiences within the same niche. And so there's definitely people that come for the technical, like, you know, modifications and stuff like that, but I think there's different people that come for just general entertainment, and different people again that just want to have a little vent about an opinion within the biking community. And so I think doing a mix of I'm basically trying to do a mix of that, so I kind of not hit everyone, but like just have a nice array of different things that people can choose from.
So when did like incorporating like scenery and stuff like that into it? Because obviously you were living in Perth at the time, but obviously you've continued it back up the road here as well. Like, when did that like kind of make its way in? Was that from the start, or was that something that was kind of made along the way?
I think I always knew that. Well, obviously, where we live, like the country we live in, Scotland is, I think, a selling point on its own for a lot of people. Not everyone lives in such a beautiful country, and a lot of people want to visit here. And I think obviously these kind of videos are a good way to maybe experience that through someone else. And yeah, we're quite lucky to be surrounded by it. I mean, it's, as I say, it's just a part. One of the selling points, I think, of the channel is just where I'm based. So,
and it's very like laid back as well. Like I was mentioning on right before I started talking about George Galloway getting re-elected, so I was like kind of disproving my own point here. But I was saying that like I found a guy on YouTube, Tom Buck, who does like a lot of like tech reviews, and he's like because I've got like a Roadcaster, he's got one, and like he's always like explaining stuff about it and that, but it's really like laid back, innocent. There's a lot of puns in it, but it's like I get really fatigued of like just constantly being bombarded with RFK Jr. new speech out today, like Theo Von interview, you know what I mean? Peloton has been booted out of freedom of speech. Like I don't get me wrong, like there's like sometimes I guess where like there's valid points in some of these things, but it is just relentless of how much I see it, and it is like brain rot sometimes. Like I just need to watch something very kind of enjoy it, right? Because I can't just be constantly hearing about things.
Well, it's like all these like that is I would say like it's all like Monster energy drinks, but sometimes you just want a cup of chamomile tea, So I feel like that might be the way. But
a nice glass of do you remember when we were at Banff Springs Hotel, and they brought us the nice water and it made us feel like we were in the other guys or something, even though we were dressed like so inappropriate to be in such a nice hotel. Like that was ridiculous. But yeah, like you're right enough with the scenery and the people wanting to visit and that, because I claim maybe just after I started this, actually I went to holiday in Skye, right, and it was like November time, but it was the cheapest time to go because a lot of the summer stuff was no longer there, and me and my cousin just went to like go and explore. Basically we wanted to do like hill walking and that, and all that type of stuff, as well as try out a few pubs, which also happened. But like, see the amount of Americans that you'll find in like Portree, which is probably the town the size of Lossiemouth. But like the tourism is like, it's just like, it kind of opens your eyes up to it, right? In terms of, and like even the travel, because it was the first time I traveled out west, and like the travel on like the train was like ridiculous. You know what I mean? Some of the scenery you see. So it is, I know it's such a cliche thing to say, and it's always said by boomers up here. It's like, well, take for granted what we live around here. Apologies for anyone that might be listening and is not familiar with Doric, I guess you would call it. I don't understand it sometimes. My gran asks me what kind of sheen I've got on today, and I was like, what are you talking about? Like, so my next question, mate, and this is something I'm genuinely interested in, is someone that doesn't drive motorbikes. Is commentating whilst driving as difficult a task as it sounds?
It depends what you're doing, really. If I'm yet to find out whether it's a dangerous thing to do, because I'm trying to think back, of whether it has ever distracted me speaking into the mic while riding. But I think it's kind of like anything. If you're interested in it, you can kind of speak. You don't really need to think about what you're going to say, and you can kind of, it just kind of comes out. And riding a motorcycle is kind of like a not to get too deep here again, but it's kind of like a Zen experience anyway. Like, so you kind of, they're both kind of like separate kind of things. So,
I guess it becomes like second nature. Is that almost scary in a way though, knowing that like when you're commentating there has to be a certain level of concentration that has been taken off driving? And I guess not to get too deep here, god, like this should be like we're putting this one on Rumble, ladies and gentlemen. But like I guess when you're in such a vulnerable position, because obviously not like crashing a car, you're safe, like there's obviously danger in any kind of collision, but there's a lot more kind of exposed, right, with motorcycles, like you mentioned. That's why people always associate it with more, dangerous accidents and that.
Definitely.
And like, because like in the videos, it's like obviously there's cuts and you talking, and then it will kind of cut for continuity purposes, I would imagine. But like, are you someone that will get like a commentary kind of for, I think your average length of video is probably around 10 minutes, just under that, something like that. So like, are you usually like kind of conversing through that pretty consistently, or do you make sure you take breaks and then like get to more points what you're talking about, or is it just like a natural thing as you're...
That's a good question, actually. No, I would say I take pretty big breaks actually between. It's actually like I try to hide it in editing, but sometimes like midway through a sentence, if there's a cut, I'm about like a mile down the road because like I've had to just stop and concentrate on writing for a second.
I suppose it works though, right? Because you're traveling as well, so like it also takes into account like you're moving. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
definitely.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely never like a smooth flow. But maybe I'll get there one day. But maybe it's not an actual goal to have, because then you're taking away concentration from like, I suppose, important moments when you're writing. But yeah,
for sure, like it's what works for you, right? Like, like I remember when I first started doing stuff like this. Anytime I messed up, even if it was like I lost my train of thought, I had to cut it out. Because I was like, the world can't see me like this. But then looking back on it now, I'm like, you know what I mean? Like, even if I was to be perfect, which there's no such thing, at doing what I was doing, people would still say bad stuff. You know what I mean? If it was like popular and that, and every kind of feedback I've ever had from doing stuff like this has always been positive. So it's just like there's a part of that you get over it, but I understand for like video purposes, it has to be more about continuity and it's more kind of condensed, right? Like
keeping it short.
You can't have that kind of I guess kind of like extra kind of roughage in there, I suppose, as you can in like an environment like this. In terms of footage, now when we did that documentary together with Sean, one thing that I kind of became very much aware of is how much footage you actually have to shoot to make a certain length of time of video. So how much footage are you usually shooting to produce one of your videos? How much like stuff do you need to actually glue something together?
I would say usually if I'm going out for a ride and filming, it's usually around 2 hours riding, and I'm filming the whole time. So there's a lot of obviously footage where absolutely nothing happens, and I'm not speaking, and I'm just like riding down the A96 towards Starbucks. And that's not interesting, but
you just bang out like, here we go, motorbike ASMR for all you freaks out
there. So that about 2 hours will probably condense into 1 or 2 videos of about 8 to 10 minutes, I would say, which is, I think that's a pretty high ratio, I guess you would say, because I think for the documentary, I guess there was way more footage than
I think it was about 5.5 hours.
Exactly.
And me and Sean watched through every single second of it, which was incredibly funny. But I'll say off camera why, off mic rather. There is no cameras now.
There is no camera. Everything's off camera.
Speaking of cameras, what equipment do you use to record videos? I believe I seen in one of your recent ones, I seen a Rode Video Mic or Rode Video Mic Go, was it?
I've got a Rode, Video Mic Pro, I think it is, and that's just like
shotgun microphone.
Shotgun microphone that I bought actually for a DSLR, but I use that to record engine sound. And then I recently bought a Zoom with a massive like dead cat on it, which looks absolutely ridiculous, but it kind of makes me look legit.
Oh, is that like similar to the one that Sean had for when we did when we basically were in a compromised position filming something for him, like when
I think
he
so.
One of those it's like it has like XLR ports as well if you wanted to connect stuff to it as well.
Mine doesn't have, it's like just it's like a Zoom H1N, I think it is. It's like a really tiny thing.
It's almost like a kind of old tape recorder, not like not of its quality, but like the way that it functions.
Nice and simple, but
that is one of the things that Sean had. To give people context on that is Sean Saul, who we both know, mutual friend,
Yes.
and fellow filmmaker, was wanting to film an action scene for like a horror movie he was doing, and I personally had to waterboard him for the film. No people were hurt in the making of said film. Just we were on the beach in the middle of summer, and when we were having to because this is things that you take for granted in filmmaking, when you're having to put towels over with like the kind of, they're not windows because there's no glass there,
no
but
glass.
like the openings,
Holes in the wall, I guess.
in the bunkers down by the beach, and I'm having to hold a towel over it to get the right lighting, because Sean is very much, and it's a good thing, is very, everything has to be like correct.
Yes.
And he will not sacrifice time to do that, if that makes sense. Like he will take as long as he needs. So when I me looking ridiculous, hanging over a cliff with a towel, 3 families are looking up at me like, what the hell's going on up there? And I'm like Cartman in South Park, where he's like, it's cool, it's fine, nothing to see here. But I remember he had one of them. So
I think it's the same as that. But it's really handy actually, just to have along with you. And apart from that, it's just the GoPro Hero 9, I think.
So would that be what's capturing your voice on the vlogs and stuff like that?
Yeah. So they've got this media mod thing. So basically, you can't plug in a mic to GoPro without this. And so I've got a mic plugged directly into the GoPro as I'm recording, and I've got that basically wrapped around inside my helmet. And what the mic is actually an old pair of headphones with the actual headphones cut off. So it's just the mic from that.
All right, sweet.
But it's obviously that's perfectly attuned to picking up voice. And it cuts out wind noise pretty well and does the job. So
it's almost like an audio engineering version of Scrap Heap Challenge. That
I need a pimp my ride on that one, I think.
Yeah, get Tim wet. Oh no, don't get Tim down, because he's also in some controversy. Thumbnail making. This is something I'm quite fascinated about. It's something that I've always trialed and errored with. For the podcast stuff, it's just the logo and then the guest who's on, or whatever topic we're talking about. Yeah. But I noticed yours are, I would say, more of an elite level in terms of like the YouTube of how people do it. There's because the problem I have with thumbnail making is I always make it look too busy when I start it from scratch. I think, there's too much space there, that's bland, I'll put something in there, and then it just gets too congested. Yeah. So how do you go about making a thumbnail for a video?
Well, first of all, I think your thumbnails look really good, by the way.
Thank you very much.
They do. I think it's good to have something like that for an episodic. Yeah. They're all part of the same thing, which I think I need to do as well. But it's only recently that I've really started to take a focus on thumbnails, because obviously that's the first sight of a video someone gets of your video. So I remember there was a couple of tips, you should never have more than 3 words in a thumbnail, because I don't know if that's an attention span thing or a graphic design thing, but I've tried to stick to that rule as much as possible. So my thumbnails are basically 2 or 3 massive block words basically now. Something just kind of teasing the content of the video, I guess. But
I swear I seen a sloth in one, but I don't think I ended up watching the video. What was the context behind that?
Oh, that was I went on a group ride and I was the slowest. So I was I put that sloth there. But that was actually, I think, an example of I found it funnier than it was. It's not actually a very good thumbnail, but I just found it hilarious, so I did it.
I mean, that is the main thing. It has to be humor. I've always enjoyed stuff that's taking a pop at yourself, or friends that you're doing it with and stuff like that. What do you use to make thumbnails? Is it just Photoshop?
Photoshop, yeah.
I'm using Canva currently.
Canva, yeah.
Which is pretty unreal as well. Again, I think there's some mad kind of story out there that it's put some graphic designers out of business just because of how good it is. You know?
Good and free. I guess it is like the DaVinci Resolve of graphic design, I guess, in a way.
The paid version's only £10 a month, which is still over time, still adds up, but it's not, it's half in whatever. Well, Photoshop's £10 as well.
Yeah, on its own, I
Oh,
guess.
well.
But I think there's, I think Canva in a lot of ways is a lot more intuitive for someone who is like, not you. Well, Photoshop is pretty, what's the word? Intimidating, I would say.
Yeah.
Like you've got like a whole toolbar down the side and you don't know what the hell any of it means. And you only use 20% of it anyway, but
I guess it could be seen as quite intimidating.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, overwhelming, sorry, because you
Overwhelming,
just said intimidating.
Yeah.
Medical brain attack just happened there. But
Sorry.
but overwhelming, right? Because
Yeah,
like it is,
yeah.
there's a lot of information in front of you at
Yeah.
one time, whereas Canva is very broken down.
Yes, 100%, yeah.
Like I guess the thing with Adobe as well is like they spread themselves so far, right? Because that, I know you've taken up photography rather recently as well.
Yeah.
Like I remember Scott, another mutual friend.
Yes.
I was going out taking photos with him last year and thinking, well, I know pretty much what I need to know about video. Like I'm sure, like I'll pick this up. It's actually quite a steep learning curve.
Definitely,
from
yeah.
going to one to the other, which I find interesting, even though like they're in the same realm.
Yes,
of, like,
yeah, definitely. There's definitely some differences there. Yes, it's good to see Scott. Like, I feel like Scott's work has improved like massively as well. That's Scott's Scenery, right?
Yes, it
For a
is.
little
He
shout out,
he was
but-
meant to be today's episode, but he has someone on, so he's now next week's episode.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, like the thing is with Scott is like when he gets into something, like he gets all the way into it. Like, it went from like getting the camera and improving the photos to I've got this new lens.
Yeah.
And this is why I use camcorders for the video podcasts that I do, because I feel like I would start obsessing over lenses and stuff, and that is a very taxing venture to go down.
Oh god, yeah.
Whereas like if I can find a camcorder that's good quality, I will plump for that because it just halves the battle a lot of the time. Although if I was to pick like an ideal camera, it would be the Blackmagic Cinema Pocket Camera 4K. So we're mentioning it. It feels like we're just kind of promoting Blackmagic at this point, like because I'm trying to get one of their video cutters later in the year as well. But yeah, when like it went from lenses to a telescope to sending the telescope back to then not getting paid for the refunding and getting another. So yeah, he puts a lot of work into it, is basically because he's obviously into like astrophotography. It's a lot of like stars and solar system stuff. So yeah, I kind of took it up thinking, oh, there'll be like one or two differences. And like, oh no, like I'm having to learn all about exposure again, but like a total kind of different. I would almost say it's like a backwards way of learning about exposure for like video in a way.
Yeah. No, I know what you mean. I know what you mean there. But yeah, there's so much work, I guess, that goes behind these things that people like, I guess consumers, if you want to call them that, don't really maybe consider. But yeah, it's all worth it.
Is it almost kind of like, because like phone cameras are getting pretty high quality, like it is pretty crazy. Like it is quite disheartening as someone that like wants to create stuff that stands out and has invested into doing that, when you just see someone that's like been on a night out taking a photo of the moon and it looks exactly the same sometimes, and it's like, that is really annoying.
Yes. Yeah, no, I know what you mean. But I guess, this professional equipment, I guess, has like a higher skill ceiling, I guess, so you can get better and better, and then that's what I'm hoping to do with the videos as well, just like make it stand out from like just a phone video. But yeah, I
mean, like we're trying to outrun technology basically with technology, funnily enough.
Fight fire with fire.
Yeah, I know, right? I want to talk about the comedic timing in your videos sometimes. One that I remember off the top of my head is, I believe you're at Tesco roundabout, and someone cuts you off, and like you'll be talking about something, and then you'll stop what you're talking about, like, thanks for cutting me off, and then continuing the video. How often does that happen? Because traffic is very unpredictable, and a lot of people don't have courtesy, it's fair to say, when they're what would you call it, road manners in a way.
That does happen quite a lot, and I used to get very angry, and I realized that anger kind of like got me nowhere, and I'm also a car driver, as you said, and I know anyone makes mistakes, so you can't like unless they've like genuinely nearly killed you.
Yeah.
Like I feel like you need to sometimes just chill out, accept things happen. Like it's my choice to ride a motorbike. I know I'm putting myself in danger, so like I can't exactly be, you know, I'm not wearing a seatbelt. I can't be angry at someone else that I fly off a bike, you know. So you just got to look, just look out for yourself. So, but yeah, to answer your question, sorry, it does happen quite often.
Deep music starts playing again.
Yes, yeah.
Just keep to yourself. You can't trust no one.
Yeah,
we're alone in this world.
Yeah.
So one thing that's kind of new to the channel recently is like you're starting to engage with the audience more. It's fair to say. Like I've seen that you gave your thoughts on like new kind of bike rules in terms of licensing and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But before I get to that, the future of automotors in general, it's a very kind of contentious talking point. Obviously, it seems like the future is electric.
Yes.
Quite literally. And there's a lot of kind of back and forth as to, because from one side, people will say electric motor vehicles will be better for the environment, even though like there's billionaires blowing themselves into space every 2 weeks in big, massive rockets.
Yeah.
And then there's like the other side where you kind of look into how electric engines and stuff like that are made and the amount of resources that it actually takes. That it's like it kind of just cancels itself out. So like what are your kind of thoughts on like electric vehicles becoming the norm as we go into the future?
Yeah. I think like you said, it's not really, I don't think it's the perfect solution. Like, I think it's kind of a stepping stone solution, but obviously it's a massive stepping stone because the amount of infrastructure you need to be able to pull it off. But yeah, as you said, like the amount of materials needed to make these batteries and stuff, and apparently they need to be changed like every so and so years. I don't know. The thing is, I don't know the exact numbers on this stuff, so I don't have like a super strong opinion on it. But I know there has been alternative stuff. Like I think there's like engines powered by water, like hydro stuff, or like they electrify the water and then they like it basically, I don't know, ignites the gases.
Yeah.
But it's so that's an option as well. But yeah, I think there is other options that maybe we're plunging maybe too quickly into electricity, but I guess we're on a time limit as well.
Yeah.
You know, but
I think like the electric idea is probably, I think it's suited more for like air travel because there's less planes, right? And like planes emit so much emissions. Like I was looking at like flights, like an average flight from London to New York, which is like an 8-hour journey. It's something ridiculous, like 330 like gallons or something into the air. Do you know what I mean? Like it's, so I think that's probably a better kind of approach for that. But in terms of cars, it doesn't seem like it will make a massive difference.
No.
In its like current state. One thing though is that, you know how we were mentioning, I don't know if we were actually recording at the time, we were talking about this area always like is late to the party for things.
Yes.
Those electric charging stations came about summing quick, you know.
They did.
Like,
yeah,
there's
very
one
surprising.
in Lossy. I think there's one in Elgin as well.
Yeah.
The car park. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it takes
that was
ages
kind of
for
surprising.
like, it takes ages for Domino's and full fiber internet, but you know, electric cars will be there on hand.
Yeah, we got pizza and podcasts, but we'll be later. But we'll be all driving Teslas before you know it, I guess. But
it's going to be a bit weird that like in the winter, you know how people leave the car running to heat it up?
yes.
When it's electric cars, the equivalent of that is just going to be unplugging it and putting it back in again.
Yeah, have you tried turning it off and on again? Yeah.
I can't wait to see if someone comes up with a mobile battery for an electric car.
Yes.
So you know how like you have roof racks?
Yeah.
And it's just like a massive like anchor power bank in the back of a car with like big USB-C.
I know. USB-C, yeah.
So yeah, starting to engage with the audience. When did you kind of make that decision, and what made you want to kind of indulge?
Yeah, I mean, I know it's kind of it's kind of one of those things of like you want to. It's one of the, I feel like a lot of people are thinking, but not a lot of people are saying. And I know like that's the right wing manifesto or whatever for like bikes.
It's just like you're the Reform UK's candidate for money or something.
Yeah. Alex Jones, you know, just like, yeah, everybody's thinking this, but nobody's saying it.
It already smells like sulfur.
So yeah, it's just another way to. I think there has to be some sort of connection there. For.
It just makes you like more relatable, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
like,
Yeah.
It sounds cliche, but people are looking for. Sounds a bit iffy when I say it like this, but they're looking for connection, aren't they?
Yes,
Like, so like obviously you gave your thoughts on that. And I was reading through the comments. It seemed like it got quite a lot of good feedback.
Yeah.
And you get questions in that people. Do you enjoy doing that, or is it a bit intimidating, like opening yourself up to letting people ask you stuff?
Well, I would say the only thing is like when you know someone's like likes your video, but you don't really want to get into an argument with them in the comments, you know. So but then you don't want to be too diplomatic that your stuff's just kind of like in the middle all the time, and just like you're not actually taking a side.
Has anyone ever sent you anything weird? They have to. It's the internet, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean,
you don't have to go into specifics, of course, but
like, I'm just trying to think. Oh yes, I will go into this because this is so weird. This was early on in the channel. When I was kind of running around Perth, there's a little like airport. I think it's like a private airport though.
Okay.
And I used to ride past that all the time, and I posted a video of me riding past it. That it wasn't the subject of the video; it just was in it. And I got a message on Instagram, I think the next day, saying, "Oh, I'm from the area, and I used to take this airport all the time. I was wondering if you could like ride around the airport and film it for me." And I was just like, I'm not going to be like, this sounds dodgy as hell. Like, I'm not.
This is a one-way ticket to Arrestville, son.
Yes, yeah. So I just basically said, no, maybe no. Like, why would someone want you to film an airport?
Yeah.
Like, and you know, my mind first went terrorism. You know,
Yeah.
Obviously it's probably not that far, but it's yeah. You do get some kind of weirdos, and there's definitely a lot of people that seem to they feel entitled, like they feel like you like owe them something, like do this, do that, and it's just I don't know if you've ever had that with the podcast or anything, but like
a lot of people reach out to promote stuff. A lot of people reach out to, can I come on? And I'm not against that, because I'm always looking to get local people on that are doing different things.
Yeah.
But it sometimes I can separate who's genuinely wanting to like speak about something that I think, and then there's people that are obviously like, you know, and then there's just the Americans that keep saying that I'm doing the Freemasons a favor by what I'm doing, and I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Because well, you know what? It started out with a guy messaged me on Christmas Eve, 2022, and I feel like this should fade to like a flashback or something at this point. But, he was like, I'm thinking of starting a Facebook page up called the Northeast Corner Club. Do you mind? And I'm like, it's a free country. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I can't copyright because you have. It wasn't even that similar of a name, but it was something along those lines.
Yeah.
But I think I had Northeast in it, and I'm like, I don't own the trademark to Northeast.
A general direction. You can't own the trademark.
Exactly. So he was like, I think it's great what you're doing, by the way. And I was like, all right, cheers. And I was like, why is someone from Florida like interested in what like Murray people have got to say?
Yeah.
And he was like, I've been wanting to start a Freemason thing up. I'm like, what are you talking about, sir? I was like, have you watched any of the... So then I sent him a massive message back saying, look, this is a local Scottish podcast, not a Freemason champion event, right? And then I was wondering, why the hell would he get that from that? So this podcast is named after a corner in a former pub, may it rest in peace.
Yeah.
The Beach Bar, which where all the regulars sat, was called the Northeast Corner.
Yeah.
And then I was saying to a friend like months later about what had happened, and they're like, oh, that's because the Freemasons named it the Northeast Corner. I'm like, oh. And then I looked up on like like
No way.
YouTube, and there is like a lot of like Freemason content out under like similar kind of
Really?
yeah. So like when I published the podcast catalog on YouTube,
Yeah.
like it boosted our subscribers up by like 10, and there was a lot of people that looked very religious, if we'll say
Yeah.
PG, from like a very kind of conservative Christian American base.
Wow.
And I'm like, we're not talking about anything that you're going to be interested in, unfortunately. You know when like Match the Day used to say, and if you don't want to hear the scores today, look away now.
Yeah.
It's just like anyone that is on the right conservative base, you might want to give 112 of these episodes a miss.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I just wanted to get to, like, we kind of already spoke about TikTok, but how big is that kind of platform now when it comes to promoting creative minded stuff on social media from elsewhere, right? Whether it's YouTube or Spotify and all these other kind of avenues that people use.
Yeah. Again, I think it's one of those things where it's like, obviously for genuine like people who want to be creative on that app, I think it is a very accessible way to do it. You know, all you need is a phone.
Has it benefited your channel having a TikTok page for it?
I'm honest. I to begin, when I started on TikTok, I thought it was, yeah, but I don't know if TikTok just does this to a lot of channels or not. But when you first start, they seem to like really promote your stuff.
Yeah, there's an accusation of a lot of it's bots and stuff like that. Yeah, to hit that dopamine. And
exactly. And then after a while, it kind of fetters off. But yeah, I kind of originally opened TikTok to filter people to the YouTube channel because that's kind of my main thing, I would say. But I think both TikTok and Instagram are kind of guilty of. I don't know if you've heard of this app called CapCut.
I've heard the name.
It's like, it's kind of a companion app, I guess, to TikTok in a way, because it's got all these like templates, editing templates and stuff. You just slap a video in, and it edits it to this like kind of viral template for you. But there's the repetition you see on your feed when you go down. Everyone's just confining to these templates. It's just so depressing in a way. But then every now and then you come across an actual unique video, but it's tough, because sometimes I feel like you actually have to go along with that just to appease the algorithm, in air quotes again. But
it's a cruel mistress, the algorithm, as well. Like, I've looked up, like, because I was thinking, what time should I actually release these? Because I did it for Friday 5 p.m. for so long.
Yeah.
And then I was like, maybe this is not the best time to upload it. And then I heard 5 a.m. because it's like the best for all time zones, because like America and stuff like that are far behind. And then that did nothing. If anything, it reduced numbers. So I was like, right. And I've tried like midday, and then I was just like, 5. That's just what works best for me. What do you think happens if America succeeds in banning this? Because there's a famous saying of, if America sneezes, Britain catches a cold.
Yeah.
So it kind of feels like if America bins it, it won't be too long until that kind of like, I know there's obviously always been security concerns about the app for quite a while.
Yeah.
But as we've kind of seen, it's probably happening on a lot of social media apps. It's just, it's not, certain people doing it on this one because it's controlled by other certain people to be diplomatic.
Yeah. So what is it mainly security that they're wanting to ban it for?
I think so, but there is a conspiracy theory out there that the Americans are trying to push heavily to get it banned because there's a lot of coverage on the Middle East at the moment, and they're not a big fan of that being out there. Yeah. So whether that's true or not, I don't know. But it just because I know like they've suggested it quite frequently over the last. Well, how long's TikTok been around? Like 2019 was probably the first time I heard about it.
Yeah.
So like ever since the pandemic started, I knew that they're kind of considering it, but it was always for that security reason, and then it just seemed to kind of go away.
Yeah.
And then like recently, it's like came back with a vengeance.
Yeah, definitely.
So I don't know if people are just 2 + 2 = 4 kind of. But it must be like really scary for someone that like has a career on there, because people genuinely do
That's the
have
thing.
careers on there. Like they have like millions upon millions of like they're celebrities through that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would imagine there would be like protests and stuff, which is going to be wild to see.
I think so. Yeah, people have really set their roots in, I think, for TikTok. But I feel like, I mean, a lot of apps are trying to mimic TikTok's success. Obviously, Instagram's very similar with its reels. YouTube's obviously got its shorts. So I feel like if TikTok left, a lot of people would move over to those other platforms, and
which probably because there'll be committees of these things, right? And they're all competitors. So like YouTube and that will be like, yeah, that needs to go.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So what's the best route you've traveled for a video? Because I suppose there's two things there. There's a difference between what one did you enjoy the most and what one looked best for a video.
I think, ironically, that group ride video with the sloth thumbnail, it did horribly, and that seems to be a thing when you when you put the videos you put the most effort into just too horribly.
I know.
But I think that's obviously the North Coast 500. I did that on, and sorry, not the whole North Coast 500. It was just Applecross Pass, which I think is one of the most famous bits of it. It's just so visually stunning. Like, you don't need to add any fancy editing or anything to it. It's just like, it's just crazy.
Do you ever feel weird? Like, I remember Sean, when we were doing the documentary, do you remember he said that he felt frustrated because one of the scenes he got that bang on, there was no color correction needed. And it doesn't make sense, like, because you think, I don't have to do as much work, but like there is like a sense of,
Yes.
I don't have to like do anything.
No,
here.
Yeah, definitely. It's like, it's naked. It's naked.
Yeah, I know, right? It needs touched up somehow. Put some makeup on it somewhere. So yeah, I guess the North Coast 500, North Coast 500.
Yeah.
Me and Scott went to do it with a few other friends.
Yeah.
And then his car ended itself.
Oh, no.
Just after Dingwall. So
Dingwall, okay, yeah.
He had to drive all the way back to Lossy with a clutch that wasn't really working.
Oh, God.
But he made it. And you know what was hilarious about it? We had like we had walkie-talkies, right? Because there was 3 different cars, so we could keep in touch. And the walkie-talkies ended up being used to like make sure we could create a sandwich around him, so like we could control him stopping and going, so like his clutch wouldn't like just destroy itself. And it worked. So
that sounds like, I mean, obviously no one, we can't make high production videos all the time, but that sounds like a really good like just layout for a good entertaining
that's
video,
what should have been the Fast and Furious 10 movie. Fast 10 your seatbelts.
Not Fast and Furious Dingwall Drift.
Dingwall Grift, more like
Grift.
Getting into photography, why do you want to take that up? I've seen some of your like scenery shots. I take it's when you're just out and about in the nature and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's I think it's similar to you. I think it's just like it kind of with film and photography, they kind of cross over quite a lot, but there's definitely their own skill sets as well.
I find it quite like more soothing for like leisure, because a lot of the work that I'm doing is video.
Exactly.
And sometimes that can put a strain on something that I enjoy doing, whereas like every time I've been out, it's for similar kind of environments, and it just feels better.
Exactly.
You know, like
you can actually relax.
There's no pressures like, even if I mess this up, it doesn't really matter.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah. There's no sound to worry about with photography.
I know, trust me. Noise gates are the bane of my life. But, another thing I wanted to get into as well is you fancy yourself as a bit of a film reviewer, as I've seen on social media.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask, what's the best film you've seen so far this year? What's the worst?
Okay, that's very easy. Best is Dune 2, and worst is Madam Web.
I did see that recently. Yes. I didn't see the film, but I've seen your review of it.
Yeah.
But it's got, I think, is it Dakota Johnson?
Yes.
Yeah. I've seen her, like, she's like, they've got everyone else's face like so smaller compared to hers. It's like, she's like,
That was a bizarre film. And I mean, even Dakota Johnson, she's like kind of disowning it, I guess you could say. But and Dune 2, yeah, it's just a crazily just cinematic experience, I would say.
What do you look for in a film for it to like be good in your eyes?
I would say actually it I'm trying to say this without making it sound super soppy, but like it like moves you in some sort of way,
Right? Yeah.
Like I'm not saying like I have to walk out the cinema crying, but like
it has to make you feel something.
exactly, yeah. Yeah.
I remember the first time watching American History X.
Yeah.
With the ending, and then like the massive, spoilers. But it's been out for over 20 years, so if you
Yeah.
haven't watched it at this point,
Yeah.
stop, watch it, and come back. Or if you listen to it, it's your own fault. You have been warned.
Exactly.
Like you think Edward Norton's going to get shot.
Yeah.
Because of his history throughout
Yeah.
the film, and then his little brother, who was kind of indoctrinated into the thinking he was through his brother,
Yeah.
is the one that ends up getting killed. And I suppose like the whole kind of message of that film is hate gets you nowhere.
Yes.
And that's like still one of my favorite films to this day.
Yeah.
It obviously deals with like a really horrible topic. It's
Yeah.
not like Forrest Gump where like you feel good in places. Like,
Yeah.
You know what I
I
mean?
felt thoroughly entertained watching American X. Yeah.
Oh, that was really wholesome.
Yeah.
In the prison. No.
Yeah.
But yeah, like what about like I seen you did a review for Everywhere All at Once.
Yes.
And I watched that and I was like really impressed with it as well, just visually in terms
Yeah.
of like the transitions and stuff like that alone, as well as obviously the narrative behind it.
Definitely, yeah. That was such a different film. Like, I mean, I think when I first started watching, I was like, Jesus, I'm so stressed out. Like, that film does not give you 1 second to relax.
It's like information overload almost.
It really is, yeah. But I would love to know the behind the scenes of that, like the amount of different scenes, and God, I can't even fathom the amount of work. But
It'd be interesting to see what they cut as well. Because
Yes.
I reckon there's probably a lot of stuff that probably just didn't work in the end.
yeah,
And like you said, it is like 100 miles an hour for pretty much the
whole thing.
the whole thing. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
We need the Snyder cut, even though I know you're a director. We need the Snyder cut.
I've still not forgiven him for having Ben Affleck as Batman, man. Like,
I agree. I agree.
Funnily enough, I was mentioning Sky earlier. There was a day where it was rain like I've never seen or heard before, right? So we're stuck inside all day, and that was on ITV2 because you only get Freeview in the hotel.
Yeah.
I know that everyone's bleeding for me right now. It's like didn't have access to the internet. But that was on. It's like a 4.5 hour film.
Yeah.
But we kind of tuned in as that scene where the arms deal goes down.
Yeah.
Where Batman is like got like a trench coat on, and then I know it's like a dream because I was like watching this and my cousin was next to me. I was like, why is this like Batman's shooting everyone? He's got a trench coat on. Like
Yeah.
this isn't following lore, as they would say.
Yeah.
And he was like, oh, it's a dream though. And I'm like, even still.
Yeah.
And to be fair, I do have a bias against Ben Affleck. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
he probably could have played a really good Batman, and I still would have been like,
Yeah. Yeah. The bar is pretty high with any Batman, I feel like. I wasn't actually as huge of a fan of the Batman. I think you liked it maybe a bit more than I did.
oh,
but I
the
know-
Patterson one. Yeah.
yeah,
I thought it
like-
was okay. It was
yeah.
like, I think nothing's really going to ever live up to the Nolan trilogy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, they obviously have the classics of Michael Keaton and Jack Nicholson, which are also fantastic films. But I think just, especially the middle film in that Nolan trilogy was
Yeah.
just very, because it was the first time that it explored a Batman villain in almost a human way.
Yes.
Because
yeah,
you could
definitely.
clearly tell like the character's like incredibly mentally ill. He's not
Yeah.
just like some happy-go-lucky kind of I enjoy doing bad things.
No.
Kinda, you know what I mean?
Yeah, just having like no motive but chaos, I think it is, isn't it? But
And then like the kind of end film that was like a kind of, it was still a good film, but
yeah.
it felt like it was a bit like kind of, I think like in 2008 that one was very kind of, I don't want to say realistic because it's not. Like there's a clown in a, like in reality Gotham PD would have the situation under control within like 15 minutes. But like there was like a kind of grounding to that film, whereas
Yeah.
like in the Bane one, like there's tanks everywhere, the whole city's at war.
Yeah.
And
More Avengers-esque.
yeah,
kind of,
yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I do like the voice of Bane though. Like it is quite.
Oh, yeah.
It's like a Batman.
Yeah,
And then it's like the bit at the end where like they confront each other, and it's like, so you came back to save your city, and like, it's funny because Christian Bale's just literally like, voice of Batman is like someone blowing out their throat.
Yeah.
It's like
No, I came back to stop you.
ensue music and then a fight scene. But I don't even know how we got onto that. Was it just Ben Affleck? Yeah.
That
See what you do, Ben Affleck. But yeah, what's your favorite film of all time?
That's really tough. In fact, you tell me yours. I will look on my letterboxd quickly
Okay.
because I've got a.
I am going to go with The Departed.
The Departed. I've heard good things. I have not seen it though. I've missed out on a lot of classics. I really have, but
Well, it's, do you know what's really like I find really not disheartening, but I get almost kind of like bummed out about is I went to see Killers of the Flower Moon in the
Yeah.
cinema in October, and like I do like going to the cinema mainly, and I think this is a bad thing for film overall, is that less people are going to the cinema with streaming options and stuff. But going to the cinema and seeing that, and it was called a Scorsese masterpiece. Now, this
Yeah.
is a guy that has done like countless of films that are been Oscar nominated and all that type of thing. And it was a bit underwhelming to what I thought it was going to be, but it just, because it told the actual story, which is like the point of making movies. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I guess they could have maybe Michael Bay'd it and, you know, Bad Boys come into it or something. You know?
Yeah.
I've seen there's another one of them coming out, which is going to be interesting.
Bad
after.
Boys.
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually, that's when I say I've missed out on classics, I've never seen a Bad Boys film.
Well, it's post Slapgate, this one, isn't it?
Yes, that's a very good point, actually.
So
That's a
it'll
very
be
good
interesting
point.
to see if he can get his street cred back.
Oh, God. Yeah.
I like Martin Lawrence, though.
Yeah. Yeah. Has he been in much since? I'm trying to think.
No, not recently. I think like I remember him from that. You know that film where he's like a con, but he agrees to work with like the DAA to get off.
Yes,
I
that
think-
rings a bell.
I think it's called. Is it Bulletproof?
I think so.
I think
yeah.
it's something like because he gets away at the Mexican border or something, doesn't
Yeah.
he?
Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm trying to think. I said The Departed, didn't I? Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, I was getting my thing, wasn't I? Let's see. Oh, sorry. It's between the third Lord of the Rings.
Oh yeah. I was about to say Return of the Sith, but that's Star Wars. No,
yeah.
Return of the King, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interstellar or Shawshank Redemption.
Interstellar is fantastic.
yeah.
Yeah. That is something that makes you feel at the end.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
like, God damn it, Hans Zimmer and
Yes.
your instrumental ways.
Yeah.
What do you think is the next one you're going to be reviewing next? Have you got that lined up or?
Well, actually, this month was supposed to be a Hans Zimmer month. Funnily
interesting.
enough. But we found out that most films he scored are super long, and you don't really feel like watching a 3-hour film after work.
Yeah.
So we haven't actually watched that many. And yeah, so I don't know what next month is going to be, but yeah, sorry, I haven't even explained that. So me and Anna have themed months.
All right. Cool.
So it kind of like forces us to watch a few new things. So I think last year we had like an 80s month. So we watched a couple of 80s classics that we missed and stuff like that. So it was, it's a good, I recommend it. It's a good way to like force yourself to watch different films.
Yeah. To like get out of your film comfort zone.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, the whole reviewing thing, I do worry, like when I share a review, it does come off as like super snobby, but it is true. It is honestly just like for my own enjoyment. And yeah, I'm always thinking of a review when I'm watching a film now. So how am I going to destroy this?
Where would R&R be on that?
Oh man, that's I think that is close to a 5. Like that's such an entertaining film.
Are you a fan of movies that are good because they're bad?
I think some.
Because like RRR is a ridiculous film, but in a good way.
Yeah, it's weird because it's like ridiculous, but it's still well made. But
Yeah.
I haven't seen Sharknado.
Oh, neither have I.
Like, I feel like that's the kind of film that a lot of people say is good because it's bad. But
Room's
it's never
obviously,
really. Yeah.
The Room's obviously like the most famous one, right?
Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah. But yeah, it's weird because you can enjoy a bad film. Yeah, it's a weird one.
And The Room had a film made about it.
Yes.
It was a comedy film where apparently James Franco, again, allegedly in some trouble in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Wouldn't break character. Like, he would just be Tommy Wiseau.
Yes.
Because like Seth Rogen's mum would turn up to set and be like, to Seth Rogen's like, is he okay?
Yeah.
And he's like, he's just...
I'm actually interested in what's your opinion on people doing that, like this method acting, like not breaking character.
It's interesting. Like, Daniel Day-Lewis, who I think is fantastic, he's what, quote unquote, a method actor. He's only really done 5 or 6 films in like a 20-year span.
Yeah.
And 2 of them he won an Oscar for, I believe, or was nominated. I think he won 2. One for There Will Be Blood, which is the oil baron one. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
And then I think one for when he played Abraham Lincoln.
Yes. Yeah. I think he won something for that.
But yeah, so he is quote unquote a method actor. I think it's a term that gets thrown around a lot, isn't it? But,
yes. Yeah.
I read an article where he, on the set of Gangs in New York, contracted pneumonia.
Oh.
And they were waiting to go get him treatment. And because of the time setting of the film, there wouldn't have been treatment for pneumonia. So he refused treatment for pneumonia.
Oh my God.
And I think, is it My Two Left Feet or something, where he's in a wheelchair? He actually was in a wheelchair for 9 months or something, and he nearly had to learn to walk again or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, it's certainly admirable, but I don't know if it's hard to say. I don't know if I could ever go that far.
I think it probably consumes your soul at some point. Like, well, we're mentioning The Dark Knight, right? Heath Ledger, the Joker, like he made himself mentally ill from doing that role, right?
Yeah.
Trying to prove a point, I guess.
Yeah.
But
God.
I think, I don't know, it's weird because I guess a bunch of my favorite actors are people that like are like seen pretty negatively, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like Edward Norton.
Yeah.
Like, Christian Bale's a good example, right? Apparently incredibly hard to work with.
Yeah.
So yeah, but
maybe there is a correlation between how hard they go with it and how
I think
good
so,
they are.
because like I think American History X, Edward Norton fell out with the original director, so he just left, and then they basically gave like Edward Norton like control of the film.
Oh my God, I didn't even know
and
that.
it's ended up being one of the best films of all time.
Yeah,
but apparently it's just incredibly hard to work with. But
God.
Look, mate, thank you very much for coming on to talk for an hour and a half.
Thank you for having me.
We do have, I keep saying we, I feel like I'm fucking Venom or something. Like
we.
So I've got one last question before I get into my corporate stuff and then play the outro and all that. And I ask everyone this: what is one thing you overthink?
What's one thing I overthink?
If you're looking for an easy out, someone's already said the answer to this question.
Oh,
I was like,
damn
touche.
it. Damn it. I'm so I would say I am I think I'm still quite a socially anxious person. Like, I think things that you kind of do day to day is fine because you kind of know the script.
Things that are unpredictable cause panic. I understand that for sure.
Especially if there's some sort of like lead up to it. So like a phone call or something. Like you're overthinking it. But I would say that's probably it. Yeah.
No, that's good, man. That's good. Thank you to everyone that's listened this far into episode 112. We will be back next week with Scott's Scenery. You heard him here mentioned earlier. It was meant to be this week, well, today, whenever you're hearing this, next Friday, I believe, or this Friday for you. But he will be on next week, and then we will have Sean McAngus from the Press and Journal up after that. If you enjoyed today's episode, please be sure to give us a 5-star review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, I don't know if Amazon has it, but just try anyway. Why not? And on the YouTube version, I really detest saying this. I don't know why. I think it's just because I feel like I'm an American teenager. But if you could like and subscribe, that would be very much appreciated. Where can people follow you on social media that maybe don't follow the channel already, mate?
So YouTube, just under Parallel Finn. Make sure you know how to spell parallel. I don't know why I chose that name. It's such a hard word to spell. So on YouTube, same on Instagram and same on TikTok.
Awesome. We will see you in 7 days, I suppose. I'm pressing the wrong outro there. Goodbye.